George Clooney just said in the New York Times that Biden needs to step down. Are you worried that now Democrats in Congress, you have Hollywood are saying Biden is not mentally fit?
George Clooney is a movie producer. He needs to produce movies.
He's a movie producer. He also raised $14 million for your guy 3 weeks ago. So, yeah, you have that.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Compar.
So let's talk about George Jebediah Clooney. Okay. Mr. Phony. Mr. Motherfucking Phony. Mr. Fake Friend. He wrote an op-ed, a guest essay for the New York Times. He said, I love Joe Biden, but we need a new nominee. Now, one of the most important parts of this article isn't necessarily that George Clooney has raised money for Joe Biden only like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. It isn't the fact that he's calling for him to step down. Many other donors have also called him to step down. Now, the real reason why this is pretty significant is because why he wants Joe Biden to step down. Because many of you saw Joe Biden's horrible performance on the debate stage. Okay? George Clooney, on the other hand, didn't just get to see that debate performance. George Clooney was side by side with Joe Biden. Let's go to Dana Bash. George Clooney got to experience Joe Biden in person. That is the real scary part of this equation. That's the scary part of this conversation. George Clooney saw Joe Biden in person and was like, oh my God, that's bad. As a matter of fact, it's as bad as what you saw on the debate stage. Isn't this good, not scary? I mean, it's kind of scary that like a dude who stood side by side with the president who raised a shit ton of money for him is literally saying like, no, he's pooping his diapers. And he's not the only famous George that has stood side by side with the president, the current sitting president. George Stephanopoulos also had a beat. A TMZ person came up to him with a, with their iPhone out, filming a private conversation where he said, hey, what do you think about the president? Like, you saw him, you were next to him. Like, do you think you should stay in the race? And George Stephanopoulos famously yesterday said, no. He said, nah, he shouldn't stay in the race. He's not fit for office. Here it is.
Hey, Susan, hey, how you doing? What do you think? Do you think Biden should step down? You talked to him more than anybody else have lately, and you can be honest. You don't.
He said, I don't think he can serve 4 more years. He said, yeah, I did sit next to him. I did sit down with him, and I did talk. Now, at first, we're like, oh, is that actually George Stephanopoulos? Do we know if he actually said that? Turns out he did, because he openly stated that he did. Okay? He came out last night and said, yeah, I shouldn't have said that, but it was me. I did say that. And, it was basically, he said something along the lines of like, it was me. I should be more careful with what I say to random people on the street. That's it. Okay. I'm just saying, these are people who literally are fucking around Joe Biden, who are not named Jill Biden or Hunter Biden. Okay. People who have been around Joe Biden for extended periods of time, like, having this position is pretty fucking scary.
Another House Democrat is calling on Joe Biden to drop out of the race. Moderate New York Congressman Pat Ryan is now the 8th elected Democrat to do so publicly. Of course, President Biden has no shortage of critics right now. Some of his toughest are coming from those who worked inside the Obama-Biden administration, like the co-hosts of the podcast Pod Save America. They served as speechwriters to the former President Obama.
This is a campaign that is being, and a White House that is being let down by their principal over and over and over again. It was a terrible interview. He did a terrible job articulating why he's in the race, what happened at the debate, and why he's the person to beat Trump. He's doing a terrible job.
Joining me now is one of the co-hosts of that podcast, Jon Favreau, Obama's former chief speechwriter, and the co-author of the...
We're going to do the New York poll in a second, and why the New York politicians are coming out and demanding Biden drop out. But that's going to come up in a second. Let's continue.
New book, Democracy or Else. John's one-time former boss is also here, former Obama senior advisor David Axelrod, now, of course, a senior CNN contributor. Thank you both for being here. Jon Favreau, I'm going to start with you because, first of all, Axe, I did listen to Hacks on Tap, so I'll get to that in a second. But I listened to the entire episode. I think you dropped it yesterday. I mean, it gave me so much anxiety. I could feel the frustration coming through the car speakers as I was listening to it, and then my earbuds. And so the question is that I have for you is, I'm putting myself in the position of the Biden campaign right now, of the White House. And that is, you guys are so angry and you guys are so upset. Are you hurting more than helping by saying so much about what you're saying publicly?
No, I think what's hurting Joe Biden right now is not only the debate performance, but the response to the debate performance, in that he has been unable to articulate a coherent and compelling argument against Donald Trump, who I believe represents an existential threat to our democracy. And the debate did not, the voters had concerns about Joe Biden's age and fitness for the job long before the debate. An overwhelming majority of voters did, and the debate amplified those concerns in a way that was very visceral for voters to see. And so it's like, it really doesn't matter what I think, but I hope that the Biden campaign and that President Biden will just like listen to the voters, right? And the overwhelming majority of whom do not like Donald Trump, do not think Donald Trump is honest, but have had concerns for a couple years now that Joe Biden is not fit for another 4 years because of his age. And a majority of voters didn't have that concern in 2020.
I want you both to listen to what the former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said on MSNBC this morning.
It's up to the president to decide if he is going to run. We're all encouraging him to make that decision. I want him to do
Hips like Cinderella. They give the 5-2-1. Give the
whatever
subs.
he decides to do, and that's the way it is.
David, I'll start with you. The significance of that?
I think very significant. First of all, as you know, I think you said earlier in your show here, Nancy Pelosi is a very deliberate person. She says what she wants to say. She never says what she doesn't want to say. She said that for a reason. The president tried to close down this discussion at the beginning of the week with his letter to the House. And what she's saying delicately and respectfully is, no, really the discussion isn't over. And we still need to have this discussion because she's hearing from members all over the country. They all poll, they all talk to their constituents, and they're worried not just about the existential threat of Donald Trump becoming president again, but also the effect that it's going to have on all of their races and the prospect of recapturing the House. So I think the leaders are trying to be respectful and supportive of the president and leave the decision to him. But I think they're going to want to make sure that he makes that decision based on real information. And the real information is not encouraging.
And so the question is, how much of that real information is he getting? You know, for example, now the Stephanopoulos interview was several days ago at this point, but he said the only person at that point that he knew that who really wanted him to get out in the Senate among his former colleagues was Mark Warner. John, you and, well, David, I think, has gone a little bit further in saying that effectively that President Biden should step aside. Correct me if I'm mischaracterizing your position, David. But John, do you think it would help at this point for people like you and elected officials who have microphones and megaphones to be more specific publicly, or is it better to continue to press this case privately with the president?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I'm sure that pressing the case privately to the president.
Is Brandon not surrounded by yes men at this point? Is your question, right? The answer is he abso-fucking-lutely is almost entirely sheltered from opposition at this point. His family is standing with him, his wife Jill and sister Valerie, who Democrats relied upon to provide wise counsel, not just cheerleading. His son Hunter has been seen at the White House so much lately that one well-connected lawyer/lobbyist Democrat dubbed him the acting chief of staff. He's the gatekeeper. He's the one who's bucking up his dad. That is surely going to be a phenomenal development for the we are the non-chaotic party position that the Democrats are trying to desperately hold on to. The article, How Hunter Biden Became His Father's Gatekeeper. There is perhaps not a worse fucking thing that the Biden administration could do right now. Republicans have literally set up Hunter Biden as like the biggest cudgel to Brandon's reelection. For 4 years, they tried to set up Hunter Biden as a propaganda point against Joe Biden in the last election cycle. It failed. Why did it fail? Because you could just so easily say, why the fuck why is Hunter Biden even remotely relevant? He is nowhere near the White House. So what do? After he gets convicted, what do? You bring him into the White House? For the past 4 years, the easiest thing that the administration could say is like, yeah, Hunter Biden is his own person. He is not relevant to Joe Biden's administration. He's not relevant to his reelection. That was the easiest way to fucking neutralize the argument that Hunter Biden is like this secret thought leader in the Brandon administration. And they fucking turned around and brought him into the White House. But do white suburban moms actually buy this? Are these people leaning Dem right now who care about the Hunter Biden shit that much? No. But what you fail to consider is that those past 4 years of anti-Hunter Biden propaganda, and also beyond the anti-Hunter Biden propaganda, is still going to be heard by moderates who think the Trump administration was too chaotic, moderates that the Democratic Party have been desperately trying to signal to, independent voters and moderates who may have even voted for the Republican Party in the past, voted for Donald Trump in the past, that turned around in 2020 and voted for Joe Biden because Joe Biden is an elder statesman. Joe Biden actually means business as usual politics. Joe Biden means we can go back to fucking brunch. No more paying attention to Trump. No more antics. No more chaos. No more commotion. No more confusion. When you take a convicted felon, if you think people care about someone's convicted felon status, as many independents and many moderates, of course, care about Donald Trump's convicted felon status, they are abso-fucking-lutely going to see your crackhead fail son in the White House and all this coverage on your crackhead fail son in the White House being now this secret chief of staff. And they're going to go, what the fuck is happening? This is why we didn't vote for Trump. This is why we voted for Joe.